when I go back to my Christian theology to see how little we pay attention to these. So this is one thing, is I'm learning more and more about the prophet and his teachings. He is bringing us back to what has been de-emphasized in the Christian theology and Jewish theology. He is highlighting in his teachings through the Revelation material that we have, for whatever reasons, overlooked or ignored. So he's bringing us back, I think, to where we ought to be and ought to have been. So that's one overall point I want to make. Another is the and it comes out in this book here that I'm reading, the what's called the ethics of caring, that Islam has a whole set of teachings about caring for the other, and it gets very, very specific. And Christianity is this question, in the Old Testament, who is my neighbor? Well, yes, that's an important question. But the Islamic faith spells that out a lot more in detail for who is my neighbor. So that's another big thing that I'm picking up as I come to the readings in Islam. But then this raises questions, the more I get into it. To me, there's something I just don't understand. Because I talk to my Muslim friends here in Houston, and I come at a lot of things from, I mean, how could that be? I mean, God wouldn't pick a person who lived in idolatry for 40 years for a revelation. Well, there are three right there. And there are many other myths that were taught back in the 1300s, the 14th century. And these myths are continuing to this very, very, very day. And they started way back there. And then it dawned on me as I was reading his work that those are the very things that I've been exposed to. Those are the things I've been taught in one way or another, through the newspaper or my courses or the other forms of media, that this whole Islamic way is not to be trusted. It is not as good as Christianity. And so just ignore it. And pretty much that's the way it's been. The West has ignored the whole story of Islam and the teachings of the Prophet and this whole flow of rich knowledge that came from the Prophet. Just ignore it. And call it names. Now, you're speaking of the West or the United States?
Yes, here. Not in general, at least the people,
Well, I think both in general.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the people here in the United States, or maybe even in the West, have a foggiest idea of the Prophet. They have these myths, as I mentioned, and as you say, were there, still are there. But they don't know the history of Islam. Just like Christians in the United States. They don't know the history of the Christian faith. they don't know the books of the Bible even, of the New Testament. So then they go to church or whatever, synagogue and whatever, but they don't have an understanding of the prophets. And frankly, they could care less. What they get is what they get on TV. So programs like this become very, very important in clarifying issues and bringing to the general public some knowledge of what is true and what is accurate.